viewers, I want to welcome you all to my very first YouTube video, or what I hope to be anyway. As you can see behind me, I've got a 2019 2SS Camaro, HSV delivered in Australia, and I'm a bit of a tinkerer, so I like to do a few projects here and there by myself. So today I'm going to be taking off the front bar and putting in some DRLs that I've recently purchased from the States. I'll just give you a bit of a look around the car first, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so as I say, this is the 2019 2SS. You'll see I've put aftermarket 1LE wheels on, which I did buy from the States as well. They're MMRs. We've got a Rotofab air intake. Just got a nice little Rotofab coolant tank cover. You'll see I've removed the sound tube. I prefer the sound of the actual V8 through the exhaust. I've also got an air intake, the Velocitec air intake, so you'll notice the SS badge is missing, and there's actually a scoop that goes in through there directly to the air filter air box. So I actually wanted to give you a bit of a look at that once I take the bar off as well, because I had to take the bar off to do that. Anyway, just going to get set up. I'll guide you through step by step for those that haven't taken the front bumper bar off, and we shall get started. So these are the DRLs that I'm going to be installing. They're OEM, GM, as you can see. They are marked left and right hand, which makes it easy, but I'm sure that won't be hard once trying to actually install. Now, these are advertised as brand new with minor blemishes. So I don't know if you can see it, but there is a very minor blemish just on the top of the lens here. Considering this is the only strip that's actually going to show, this one's pretty much perfect. That might rub out, but there's a tiny little mark there as well. On the back, looks like they've marked it with a marker. There's a couple of spots here and there, but yeah, they're advertised as new with minor blemishes. They cost me $330 delivered Australian dollars. I know you can buy them in Australia as well. I think HSV actually remove them from the car upon delivery and replace it with a blank. So just looking at the front of the car, this is the blank we're talking about. It's just a black piece of plastic. The other thing is the wiring should already be behind the bar. There is a loom connector down the right hand side behind the bar. I'll show you that as we start to pull it apart. But wiring should be ready to go, making it a lot easier to wire these bad boys up. So preparation to start jacking the car now. Now I'm getting a bit old for this, but under the car anyway. So before I start jacking, just wanted to point out I've got jacking blocks. They sit on the seam and they're bolted in place with a couple of Allen bolt screws, and they are the jacking points on all four corners to ensure that the seam doesn't crush. These were cheap aftermarket blocks. They don't cost much at all, but good insurance to make sure you jack the car up safely. Then put jacking stands on. car's jacked up. Now my preference is to always have solid jacking points or hold points, but also keep a little bit of weight on the hydraulic jacks as well. That means I guess there's 2 failure points there before anything's gonna go bad. Wheels need to be off to make sure you've got easy access underneath this inner liner. It's a soft liner. There's only a few screws to take out, but you need to get to a few bolts that actually hold the front bar to the fender or guard, depending on who's watching this. So that's the next step. Bolts underneath the bar as well, which we will get to under there, and then there's some in the engine bay. So it's not really that big a job. It's a 20-minute job really, just as long as you got the right access and the right tools, I guess. There's nothing worse than watching videos and it's all in complete blackness because of contrasting. So I won't film all this, but I think it's a T15 Torx that you need to get into these screws. Like I said, just need to remove this liner enough to get behind it. You don't have to take it out completely. So there's about 5 screws. So I'll just get started. Hard to do it one-handed too, so especially left hand. There's 3, 4. Now I like to do these 2 on the inner liner as well. That just loosens up this liner a little bit more. So I'll do these 2, and then she's ready to sort of peel back. Okay, so they're probably all ready to fall out now. All close to it. Took my gloves off too. I was getting dirtier with the gloves on. They got oil in them. Yeah, these screws are already falling out. Just another tip as well, the bar is going to come off, so have a blanket, some cardboard, whatever you want to use to protect your bar, so that you don't have it in one hand and think, oh shit, what am I going to do with it? Where am I going to put it? So yeah, I've got some cardboard with a blanket over it. Just an old one I had in the garage. Alright, I'll be back in a tick. Okay, now I'm under the front. You'll see that these are now bolts, just to make it interesting. 7mm. There are a few Torx screws under here as well, so anything that seems to be attaching the front bar needs to come out. But the first thing to do is get these ones off that are connecting the blue bar to the under tray. The under tray doesn't come out, or doesn't need to anyway. I've got these air deflectors in here. Some people do have them, some don't. All they do is catch gutters, as far as I'm concerned, so I might leave them off when I put the bar back on. But they have bolts under there as well to connect that. So onto that job. Okay, I think I'm all done. I think I counted 18 bolts that I took out. There's these couple of Torx screws, but I can't see what they're actually holding from here, so I'm hoping, actually they're not even Torx screws, they're little plastic clip-in button, push-in buttons. So I'm going to see behind, when I take this inner guard off, I'll see behind and see if I need to take that out. But yeah, about 18 bolts. Make sure you put them somewhere you don't lose them, and the next step is to get under the guards and take the bolts off that hold this section together here. Alrighty, so I've just pulled the inner guard out. It's like I said, it's just a fabric material. It does have a lot of flex in it, but be careful not to tear it still. Those little black clips that I saw, they're actually holding some of the black plastic to the bumper, which is all part of the bumper assembly, so you don't need to take those out. I know the lighting's pretty bad. Now what we need to do, there are, for this joint here, there's 3 bolts just inside the guard, but only 2 of them need to come out. So you'll see that one there, there's one behind it, there's one there, and the furthest forward doesn't need to come out. It actually holds the locating plate in place. So just need to take the 2 closest to yourself out, and then we get to take out this bolt here, this one here, this one here. You see this is the headlight assembly that we're looking at, and one up the top here, and you can actually see through to the bottom of the bonnet or hood, whatever you people call it. So yeah, there's not too much to it. You do this on both sides, and the front bar is off. So I'll just get some tools, extension bars, and I'll do that. So 7mm, see if I can do this holding the camera. Okay, that one's out and gone, and that one's out as well. Like I say, don't lose them. They are different to these inner guard bolts, so keep them close by. These are the clips that actually hold the inner guard to the actual guard itself, or fender. I've taken this out a couple of times, and I've actually torn the fabric, so that's what I'm suggesting you don't do, because it's got no purchase for this to actually stay in place now. So it's not a huge issue, it's just protect it from the weather, I guess, the rain, etc. But it'd be nice if it's not broken. Okay, now everyone's got different tools. I happen to have a few extension bars that I can join together.
Now I have to do this in an angle pointing directly forward rather than up, like I've got this socket, so I'll just do this without the camera and get back to you.
Okay, just to help everyone out, continue to struggle. See it? Yeah, possibly can. This plug here is the main plug for the wiring loom, I think. Doesn't take much to get it off, and you can see it's coming from the main harness, and it's going through to the front bumper bar, or front bar. So the tab, little red tab, pulls back. Okay, again, just for everyone to see, there's a little pressing Christmas tree clip just to hold it in place in a little bracket. Pull it out, push this red tab back. That's a locking device. Then with a small screwdriver, lift up the tab inside the connector, and then that gives you the ability to get the plug apart. Everything below has been done. Now we just need to remove the strip of torque screws from the top of the bumper, or bar, whatever you call it. It's not really going to bump much, it's just a bar, front bar. But you need these to actually pull these little Christmas tree clips off, whichever one works best for you. Try not to scratch as you go. There we go. So two of those pushing clips, and the rest are going to be torque screws. The same torque screws, I think T15, as the rest of the screws that I've had to remove. Now I've left these two. They're slightly different. They're like a locating pin. I'll just show you. So rather than having a torque screw with a built-in washer, there's two that actually have like a locating lug. It's still a torque screw, same size, but it's a little locating lug that it has some movement. It's a slot rather than a circle. But yeah, just you'll see that they can only go in one place. One here, one here. The front bar actually has a large cutout for those to go in place, so you can't get it mixed up. And that's out. Now these are pushed in, so just need to unclip. Small little tabs, nothing special, not hard to get out. Bumper should be ready to come out now. Now I've got my camera flash on, which probably helps a little bit, but one thing I forgot to mention, those two bolts down where the bottom of the guard is, bottom of the bar I should say, there's two bolts that I mentioned need to come out. The third one does need to be at least loosened off, which I've done. That's the third bolt there. If you don't loosen it off, it just still holds or tries to hold the bar in place, and therefore we won't be able to pull it out. So just a correction on what I said earlier. One side. Other side. And she is off. Wasn't so hard after all. Okay, just before we go any further, it's one bolt there, and there's a press stud in there as well. Then you got the three other bolts down the side of the guard, and then, as I say, this plate holds the bar in place, lifting it upwards. So that front bolt just needs to be undone a bit to slide the bar out from it. Like I say, the under tray doesn't need to come out. I didn't loosen anything. I just took the bolts out that were in the bumper bar. And same on this side. The only thing we had to worry about was making sure we unplug the wiring loom, which plugs into the bar. Make sure that's done first or you'll run out of hands. And then undo the top bolts, 4 bolts, 2 bolts here, across the top, and across the bottom, and you have the bar off. Look at the front bar now from behind. This is the panel which we're taking out to replace with DRLs. 1, 2, 3 bolts and it's out. Wiring loom sitting there waiting to be used, which is great. You'll see that you can trace that to the main plug for the bar. I just noticed there's a few others that haven't been used there too, but I guess that's for all sorts of models. Side indicators or markers don't need to come out. Follow the wiring loom, branches off straight into the DRLs this side. Follow it along up to the DRL plug for the right side, and then the side marker. All pretty straightforward. Okay, about to remove the old blank. 7mm socket. That just pops out, which it does. Quick check of that. Got my DRL. You'll see it's very similar. One's a piece of plastic, the other one's a set of LEDs. Put that aside. Slot that in. Okay, I'm not too sure about that. Both sides are a little bit iffy with the fit and the fitment. There's a bit of a gap in between the lens and the plastic bar, but I'll move on. So this is our plug, and I'm assuming it's a simple plug-in, which it is. No need to do anything more than that. That's easy. Wiring all seems to be pretty much bedded down. I might put another tie there. Probably doesn't need it though. In fact, I won't, because I won't be able to unplug it again if I did that. I'll leave the foam padding on just as protection, and do the other side. The other side, still got the same issue with this side as well. But anyway, pushing on. Make sure that's all clear. Clips in home. Now try and work out the fitment. Right, now I've had this out and looked at it again, and I think one of the reasons that I couldn't get it to fit, there's a couple of locating pins. You'll see just above the bolt there's a locating pin, and down here another locating pin. Now when I put it in, I missed that pin. That pin folded over and it wasn't actually sitting flat, which was holding it out from where it's supposed to go. Okay, in trying to put the bar back on, what I found is that the heatsink and the actual plug, which went up here, was interfering with this main harness, which is normally fixed to this bracket. Now, in order to get the bar back on, I've moved the plug down from where its original location was, because you'll see it actually protrudes directly out, normally just using a spring clip, but that's how it normally sits. So I've removed that, brought it down here, and just used a tie wire tie cable to hold it in place there. I have removed 4 or 5 tie cables from this harness because this had to get completely out of the way, so I'm going to cable tie it up here out of the way. It's not interfering with any airflow ducts or anything. I'll just cable tie these up to make them nice and neat and won't move around, because when they move around that's when you get rubbing and shorting. And then we'll give it a go. I have actually tested the lights and they are working, so that's a good sign, but as you can see, rain is threatening. A quick update. All of those zip ties that I put in, I ended up having to take out again, as you can see there. The reason being, including a couple of factory ones, the main reason is this is the main connecting harness for the wiring. That's the rear of the DRL. Get that out of the way. This harness connector was originally up in here, and it interferes with the DRL. So even after moving the plug for the DRL, there was still a heap of interference, and everything was stopping it, stopping the bar getting in, locking in place. So this black bracket you can see there, that was actually holding a whole heap of wiring and wiring looms. That's now doing nothing because I've had to remove everything off that bracket. So you can see it just sits there doing nothing now. The wiring itself is all fine, it's all harnesses, they're not going to go anywhere. This harness connector isn't going to go anywhere either, it's still sitting in tight. It sits in behind the ducting for this radiator, so it's not going to get in the way. I've just started to put the bolts in and by hand, so I'm just going to do them up, and then these bottom bolts that connect the bumper to the guard, I'll put those in, go the other side, do the top and bottom, and Bob's your uncle. Okay, just an update. Had a downpour which didn't stop me, I kept going. Finally got everything to fit up. I had to basically take out one loom clip. This is actually what holds that main harness clip in, so it just pops into a little slot hole in the front bumper. Had to take out all of these. A couple of those are mine, but some of them are factory. Move everything downwards so it sort of sits down here, the wiring harness, and that made sure everything was clear of the actual light. So I've put the screws back in. Screws are in the bottom under the car. I've left those little air deflectors out this time. All I've got left is to put the screws in the top, and this is pretty much done. Chuck the wheels back on, torque them up, and I'll show you what it looks like. It doesn't look too bad. I know that I was worried about the fitment, but from outside the car they look pretty good actually. Just a warning, when you're putting these clips back in the bonnet before the screws, make sure you put this side on first, because this side overlaps. So if you put this side on, bolt it all down, you're going to have to unscrew it again, so you can get this one under it. Only minor, but saves doing something twice.